Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What? Today we've got Sina Sadrzadeh on, and he is a podcast host and entrepreneur. Hi, Sina.
Hey, how are you?
Very good, thank you, mate. Very good. We were just saying it's quite busy on a Monday, but yeah, good start to the week so far.
Yeah, same as me, really. It's not Monday's always a tricky one. Like it's just very sort of because some people work on the weekends and they just like a lot of emails come in my inbox and it's like, okay, I have to deal with them. But it's been decent for a Monday as well for me.
Good stuff. Do you want to tell everyone a bit about what you do, Sina?
Yeah, of course. Like it's a few different things that I do kind of day to day. It's not, I guess like a big thing that motivates me is variety in life. And I've really got that now, which I'm really happy about. So there's a few different things that I do. My main thing that I do is I'm the head of growth of an NFT marketplace. So that takes up most of my time. It's the thing that I do the most. And that's really exciting because we got funded like Series A. And we're launching the NFT marketplace in August. So people like listening now, they should be able to access it depending on when this is going out. But yeah, so that takes up my day job. So it's mostly about how to get people onto the platform, and also creators onto the platform and trying to grow organically, that sort of thing. But
Mm.
besides that, I also have my own startup called Wing, which is an in-person networking tool. It's a software and a hardware. So we use this chip that's powered by NFC technology, so near field communication. And it's a networking tool. So basically, you would tap it on someone else's phone, and then all your information comes up. And the reason why I started that was because we hated how wasteful paper business cards were and how much innovation happened in online networking, but almost nothing happened. No innovations happened within in person. And so
Mm.
we really wanted to plug that gap of like innovating within that space. And so we
Interesting.
started that about a year and a bit ago. And yeah, we like the likes of Deloitte, NatWest, and Samsung, and University of Cambridge. A few other companies like use our products, which is pretty cool. Fully bootstrapped though, we haven't like raised any funding. So yeah, that's like the two companies that I'm with. And then besides that, I also host a podcast, which you alluded to. I host a few different ones actually. I host three at the moment.
Wow.
So yeah, it's it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of like head down doing work. It's very varied though, and that's kind of the limit of everything that I'm doing. I can't really do much more.
Hmm.
I've reached my limit. I'm very happy with like the balance that I've got.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much my life in about 30 seconds.
Well, we wanted to get you on the podcast, definitely from my perspective, because you're a bit of a man after my own heart. I love variety and doing different things, and I haven't really had anyone on the podcast yet who has done what you've done and successfully, I'd say. You know, you're doing different things and all these things are working for you. And you've got a couple of startups you're involved with and like you say, your own company and podcasts. So I want to take people through the journey as to how you've got into this and how you've managed to do so many different things and also be successful in those different things. So
Yeah.
let's start back in sort of university. Did you go to university for starters?
I did, yeah. Not that that's like a prerequisite of success if anyone's
Sure.
listening. Like it I know a lot of people that have done insanely well not going to university, and I also know people that have done insanely well going to university. It's not a prerequisite. University is one of those things that teaches you a lot. I was really grateful for the experience, and I'd probably go again. Like I know a lot of people that like very anti-university, but I think it's a very good experience. Not to say it's a prerequisite for sure, but it for me it was very good. I liked it. Um, so yeah, I did go to university. I went to University of Bristol, and yeah, what was the second part of your question?
Yeah, no, what did you study at the university?
I studied economics and management. So it
Okay.
was yeah, three year course.
And have you found that valuable in your sort of what you're doing now?
I think it's like one of those things where the actual university experience is more useful than the actual course. So, like those elements of the course where I still remember, but like most of the things in the course I don't really remember now. It's been like three years since I've graduated. So it's been a while. Like no, like 2 3 years. But I think the actual experience of being in that environment where everyone is in the same sort of stage in life was actually very useful for me. So what I mean by that is you will never get another situation where people like the smart people around you and they have a lot of free time and they're willing to do a lot of different things, not being paid for it. Like it's a massive freedom. So you can join like societies, you can join like sports teams and things like that. You can experiment with different businesses and things. And also because you're a student, you can, even if you fail, like it doesn't matter because it's not what you're doing. And also there's a lot of schemes out there that really help students when it comes to starting businesses or like starting your own initiatives that you don't get after university. So it's a really good environment for experimenting with, I guess, what you enjoy in life. And like for me, it was variety. So I enjoyed like being on a sports team. I enjoyed starting different businesses, and I was vice president of the entrepreneurship society at the university. And I know I have friends as well that they had their own interests that were very niche, and they ended up just starting their own society, and then other people joined, and the university would give you money to do that. So it's a very unique environment where you can experiment with a lot of different things. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and you're never going to get another sort of environment like that, because after you graduate, people have got their own jobs, people have like very time limited, and if you have to, if say you need a developer or a coder or something, instead of going to like the computing society and then just being like, oh yeah, do you want to work on this together, and then probably doing it for free or for equity or whatever, you have to end up paying someone. And for contact building, it's very good being in that environment. There's just so many benefits, I think.
I mean, that's really interesting. I think me and Tom have different perspectives on university. Now, you've put that very eloquently and you've made a very good case for university in my mind. Whereas I was always of the opinion, I didn't go to university, I went straight into work, but I saw a lot of my friends go to university and not do anything that you just mentioned there. They didn't join societies or anything like that. They sort of maybe played on the football team and then went down the pub 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to go to university and then come out with a degree that everybody else has got, and you're not going to take advantage of those societies and joining the teams and networking and starting businesses, then for me, it doesn't make sense. But if you embrace it like you have clearly, then yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like I think the majority, to be honest, don't really see all the different opportunities that university provides, because people kind of see it as like, oh, they just provide a degree. And it's like, I actually probably think the degree is secondary to everything else that's on offer. So I could have easily got a first, I reckon, like the amount of, I've seen the people that put in work to get a first, but I was like, I'd rather get a 2-1 and just make use of all the other stuff that's available, because I know later in life this stuff, it's still there, but it's not as prevalent, I would say. And if people are kind of on the fence with university, don't go to university just because of this element. Like you can say, like, you can join networking groups that are very concentrated in this way as well, like after, or like not going to university, you can go straight to work and then make use of these networking groups or other sort of groups that exist. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's very unique environment, but if you don't make use of it, then it's not really for you, I guess. But yeah,
I think
it's just what you make of it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think I'd go even further. I was studying engineering. And for me, one of the coolest things that I got out of university was being able to use some of the equipment there.
Yeah.
Because all the companies around the university don't have access to some of the top end equipment. The university does. So they'd have to send all their parts in to be checked or have certain processes done on them. Whereas I was just able to play with that on the Saturday if I wanted to, That's, I've got a £5 million bit of kit that I had free access to if I signed in, So I think there's that aspect of things that you can learn and work with things that you don't have access to in your career, to be honest.
1,000%. Like I have a friend, his name's Nathan, Nate for short, but he started his own business. Exactly what you basically said there, Tom's like he studied engineering at Imperial, and he didn't really do the degree as a secondary, as I guess what I said before, but he just used the equipment to start his own business, which is around prosthetic limbs. So he ended up just making prosthetic limbs, and now he's built a business out of it. He doesn't go to Imperial anymore because he graduated, but he's built this business that started out because he used the equipment that would have been really expensive to hire if he wasn't actually there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's these perks that exist, but they're fairly hidden. Universities have a great, they have all these opportunities that exist. The bad thing is that they don't advertise it very well. They're not very good at that. Or they're either not very good or they just don't do it. You don't really hear about them, so you have to pursue them yourself. So yeah, that's just the first step is making yourself aware, because I know loads of people that were like, oh, if I knew that existed, I would have definitely done it. And it's you have to really search for them.
No, it's a great point. Really, really well made. I'm really interested in the fact that you've been able to do a variety of things. And like I said at the beginning, it's very much something that I feel like I do and I'm working towards as well. But I don't know how you felt, but at school, it was never really an option. And you were always kind of given this spiel of you need to find one thing and do that one thing very well. And, you can't do different things. You have to have a good career. You need to learn one skill and build on it. But that does not work for me. And I don't know how you feel, but to keep myself going and into the work, I have to be doing something different. Variety, I actually probably work harder doing lots of different things I would if I was doing one thing.
Yeah, I think that view it's a fairly old view, but it's not like it because it existed because if you were to do different things like back in the day when like as the internet wasn't so powerful, the internet didn't exist, you'd have had to dedicate a whole lot of time to maintain two different things. So it would have been like you would have done not very well at either of them. So say if you were like an engineer, but you also wanted to do, I don't know, like TV stuff or even a podcast is what I do. Um, like back in the day, you'd have to do the engineering job, like 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever. And then you'd have to go to a studio, hire out the studio, and then like basically invite all these guests to come on because like you can't like do remote interviews because the internet doesn't exist. You have to like do a lot of outreach, like going to agents and stuff. You can't go to them directly because LinkedIn didn't exist. Like there's a lot of like different barriers that existed back in the day. So it was easier, not just easier, but it was like more productive to just do one thing. Whereas now it's very easy. Well, it's easy. It's much easier than before to find what you enjoy because like there's just infinite resource now, and also execute on what you enjoy because the opportunity to kind of do that is amazing. Like I could, for instance, like literally today, I was doing like some my NFT stuff, and we got cracked a lot of like these things that we've like been stuck on for a while. And then I did some wing stuff as well. Like I replied to a few wing emails and things like that. And now I'm doing a podcast with you guys. Like I've done 3 different things in the space of about like 5 hours, and that ability to seamlessly move between everything is because of the internet. And I guess like if you work from home, it's even easier, which is what I do. If you work in an office, it's slightly harder, but even still, you can still like maintain those things. So that view was the most productive view back in the day. There is an argument now that if you just concentrate on one thing, that's still better, but it depends on you as an individual. Like you can, like for me, if I could concentrate on one thing, I wouldn't be as productive on that one thing because I need that mental stimulation. And I think probably for you, it's the same. So that's where it comes in, like doing all these different things. Like for me, doing a podcast, it gives me energy rather than me like giving energy, if that makes sense. It gives me energy.
Yes.
So it's like when I've been in job interviews before where they're like, oh, if you take this job, you have to leave, like not do the podcast anymore. It's like, no, that's not going to happen because they don't understand that that's where I get my energy from. So after like a day of doing work, like I enjoy speaking and like having these cool conversations with people. So yeah, I think it's cool now that people can do these different things and just execute on what they enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not an easy process. I'm not making it as like it's easy, but it's far easier than it was before. Like 100%.
100% agree. So after university, where did you go after that?
So I was going to stay in Bristol. I had a job offer in Bristol, but all my friends were leaving Bristol. So I was like, oh, everyone's leaving. So let me see if I can defer this job to London. And they didn't let me do that. It was probably a good idea because that job wasn't really for me. I discovered. I'm not going to name the name of the company. I could, but like, I'd rather not in case, I don't know, anyone's listening, but like they're one of the big four accounting firms. So you can probably guess who it is.
Yeah.
So I was quite happy that like that didn't work out in the end. I ended up like applying for different jobs for about a year while maintaining my other business, Peppercorn, which was like my business I started at university. And I wasn't really going anywhere, my business. So I was like concentrating more on like job applications. And so I got one job, like this was after like a year of applying because I was just like applying loads. I got one offer that was pretty good. And then like COVID hit. So they deferred the job until September. So I was like, I had all this time. I had about, I don't know, I guess 5 months. And I had this dream, like, was always starting a podcast. Like, I always enjoyed having those conversations with entrepreneurs because I was doing that anyway. So I was like, if I can just record it,
Yeah.
that'd be cool. So that's when I started the Millennial Entrepreneur, which was about 2 years ago, 2 and a bit years ago. And I recorded with a few of my friends at first. Like, my first ever recording, I was so nervous that I spilled water all over my laptop. Not many people know that. Like, maybe a handful of people know that.
Yeah.
So, like, the first recording, I had to cancel it last minute because it just, like, my laptop's fucked. Oh, can you swear? Sorry.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Okay, cool. My laptop was just, like, ruined. So yeah, that was the first ever recording. And then since then, if you want to kick out of stuff, I guess, like, if anyone's like, oh, he's a good speaker now, I think I'm a fairly good speaker now. But if you look at, like, episode number 1, 2, 3, even up to 20, like, I was not great, like, really, really bad. So now I've definitely improved, and I recorded episode 100 a few weeks ago. So it's going live on, like, this week. So when this goes out, episode 100 of my podcast will also be out.
Wow.
So
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. So it's come a long way, that one. And that was just through sort of perseverance, to be honest. Like, I was just bored more than anything. And I was like, this is probably the best thing I could do with my time, is just have these conversations with people that I enjoy talking with anyway. And I think, I don't know what the experience is with you guys, but having a podcast, it's not, even if no one listens, like, you get zero listeners, it gives you an asset that gives you a lot of, like, authority, and it gives you an asset that you can, like, get people on that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to speak to.
Yes.
And I've created a lot of contacts from that. And, like, I'm not joking, every single opportunity that's followed me in life in the last, like, 2 years has been from the podcast. Like, it's insane. You can track it all the way back to that. So
We are in 100% agreement. I think
yeah,
we're 200 episodes in. We've spoken to people from NASA. We've spoken to entrepreneurs that we'd never ever dream of speaking to, like the founder of Braemont Watches. Just these incredible entrepreneurs that we've spoken to, and just, amazing people super high up in their industries, and they've given an hour of their time or however long we recorded, and now you've got this network of 200 incredible people, and just the opportunities. That's what I would say to people as well. Like you just said, it's not necessarily about the views it's not about the views for a very long time. So don't worry about the views. It's going to be about what you can make out of the conversations you have.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, as I say, like, every single opportunity, and I guess it's the same for you guys, like, more personally, has come from the network that I've built through this. Like, my job that I've got now with my NFT, someone in this networking group found me from the podcast. They invited me to the networking group. I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool group. Like, let me join. It was an exclusive one. The CEO of this company was in the networking group. We met, and he invited me on to join the team. That was how it happened. But it came from the podcast. And then other podcasting hosting gigs that I've got have been from, obviously, this, because it's like, they find me on there, or like, they were a fan of the podcast, and then they were, like, asking me for advice on starting their own. And they're like, you know what, can you just do it anyway? Like, do it for us. And I would, like, charge them on that. And now I'm making more from, like, if it's a money thing, which it shouldn't really be, that's not why I started. But if it, like, I'm making more from podcasting now, pretty, like, almost, than I was for my previous job, which I quit to join this other one. So, like, it's 100% possible. And that's because of just, like, this asset. And you don't have to start a podcast if you're not, like, you don't want to talk, but it's just about personal brand. Like, you can build personal brand in different ways. Like, I know people that they do crazy things on LinkedIn, and they get all these, like, amazing opportunities that come from that. So there's, like, different ways to do it. Just having, like, people, when they think personal brand, they're like, oh, I have to post on Instagram every day. And it's like, no, there's different ways that you can do it. There's different ways to have to have authority in this space. One way is to just work 20 years within one company, and then you've risen up, and you're the go-to person. But now, because of the internet, there's, like, different ways to do that. And you can do it at a younger age. So yeah, I don't know what the point that was there, but it's just every opportunity has come from this.
Certainly. And then what was the sort of next stage of your career after that? How did you get to where you are now in these couple of roles you're in?
Well, yeah, after I started the podcast, then I also started Wing, like, fairly close to that. So this was all sort of while I was waiting to start my job. So yeah, I started Wing at the same time. I started Wing during lockdown, which is a fairly like, I don't know, because it was an in-person networking tool in lockdown, like no one was doing that. It was a funny experience doing it. So some people say it's like a bad time. I actually thought it was a good time, because the analogy I always use is like, if you sell ice cream during winter and people are buying it, it means you got a pretty good ice cream. So we were like selling units while in lockdown.
Wow.
So we kind of thought, okay, we're fairly risk proof when it comes to this, because the environment is just totally wrong. So we thought, like, once lockdown eases, people start networking, then hopefully we can like really sort of explode from there. And since like January, February of this year, it's really sort of increased. So, and then from there, I've really sort of brought more people onto the team. So it started out as just myself. And then when the orders got a bit big, then I brought on like my two co-founders who are both developers, and they helped me build the software. But the first ever iteration of the product, it was just a chip with me using a third-party software, which is similar to Linktree, with every order. So people would order it on Instagram. We wouldn't have a website at this point. So people would be like, can I order? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, I'd send them a PayPal link. they'd pay for it. And I was like, wow, people are like actually sending me money on PayPal. People that didn't know, by the way, I didn't know who these people were. And then I'll give them a Google form. They fill it out. I'll be like, yeah, so what do you want your photos to be? What do you want your first link to be? Second link, third link? Give me the URLs. And then I'd manually make every single profile, program the chip myself. Wow. And then I sent it to them, and they loved it. Like, they're really happy with it. So from there, I was like begging my two co-founders to come on board. They came on board eventually. And yeah, now we've grown the team. We're fully bootstrapped. So we're still working this like part-time with no salary. We're all like on equity. There's about 6 or 7 of us now. So wow. It's grown fairly big since just me and then the 3 of us. So that was Wing. And that's still going until like from now.
Very cool.
And what are some personality traits that you've seen yourself that have allowed you to thrive what you're doing?
That's a really good question. And that's a question like I've only really thought about within the last like year, is like, why do I do this? Like, why do I do these certain things? And I think, I don't know if it's personality traits, but the ability to just like work really, really hard without like, I know like you're just working incredibly hard without like being put down by that. That's what the variety like helps me, is like I can work hard, but it's because I've got these different things that I can do where it kind of keeps my mind stimulated. I don't sort of be like, oh no, I want to break. So I think, yeah, that's like a big personality trait, is the ability to just like work really long hours, but also work smart as well, of course. Like, if you can find systems and things. Actually, a big turning point for me is not being a perfectionist. People think like being a perfectionist is actually a good thing. Like, whenever you see like the standard, like, what's your biggest weakness in a job interview, someone's like, oh yeah, like I'm too much of a perfectionist. And it's like, it's not for them. They're like, oh yeah, it's not actually a weakness. It's like a strength, but it's like hidden as a weakness. It's definitely a weakness. Like in my opinion, it's 100% a weakness, because with being a perfectionist, you spend too much time on things within your business or within like whatever that don't really mean that much. Like, that actually the end consumer won't really see. Like, for me, like with you guys, actually, prime example, you edit this podcast. You could very easily spend hours editing out every and in your guest voice, but you choose not to do that. I don't know, you might do that, but you shouldn't do it.
We started, I think, probably did that for the first 20 episodes. And
yeah.
I said to Tom, like, this is ridiculous. You know, we can't do this for 1,000 episodes or whatever we're going to do. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Because the value isn't in how many times your guest says and the value is in the conversation, right? So your audience don't really notice every time someone says and it doesn't really like, because it's just the way people speak, like, naturally. So, and that goes towards like every element of business, to be honest, in my opinion. So that's like the first reason why being a perfectionist isn't good, because you concentrate on things that don't really deliver much value for the end consumer, whether that's a listener, whether that's a consumer of a business, whatever. And the second thing is, it's very difficult for you to give up control in anything, because you want to have that control over those different elements. So the biggest turning point for me was, actually, I don't need to be a perfectionist. If I get it like 80% of the way, I'm happy, because the end 20% requires a lot of the time. So if you can give up a lot of it as well to other people and kind of trust them, then, and even if they don't deliver to your sort of specification, they're still like doing better than if you would spend all your time on that task. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
brilliant
yeah,
point.
building these infrastructures, building these systems where like people can just substitute you, and then you're just left doing the elements of the business where you would actually be valuable as a person. So I think, yeah, being comfortable giving up control it's a very big skill that's not really spoken about much.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, great points. And then what would you say has been your biggest positive or biggest takeaway from this experience so far?
Biggest takeaway with like my entire journey.
Yeah, what's been the sort of biggest thing that you're like, I'm so glad I've done this, or something positive that's impacted your life? Like, this is definitely the right thing for me to be doing.
I think it's just these opportunities, like everything's come inbound now. So that's like a big thing where I'm like, okay, this is a bit crazy. Where, so say I just get these random messages on LinkedIn, people are inviting me to do like workshops, people inviting me to do talks and things, which had not really happened before. So I'm really happy that that's got to a stage where there's just abundant opportunity. I'm like massively grateful for that. And it doesn't come from day one. It requires a lot of time to do it. And if you chase money in the short term, you'll never get to that point. That's what I've realized. It's like you have to be patient, and things will work out in ways that you might not think that might happen. So like it's not linear. So it's not like you reach certain listeners on your podcast and this will happen. It's very much like you work on your podcast, no one listens for ages, but then you might get an opportunity to do like a massive talk at like Samsung, which is what I did for London Tech Week last year. And that was a point where I wasn't really like getting that many listens. So it's just like these things that just come because you're just working hard and telling people about it and just persevering. So yeah, I'm really glad that that's been like everything's that kind of been going on in the background, where all these opportunities can happen. The biggest thing that I've realized though is that people, like businesses and every sort of opportunity you can think of in the world, like every single one that you can think of in the world, it's just people that hold that, like that key. So what I mean by that is if you want to get a guest on your podcast, like there's a few people or like one person that has the key to that individual. If you want to sell your product within a business, there's probably like a director that holds that key. Like people think businesses are very like scary entities that don't really, like they're very abstract, where in actual fact, like it's just people you need to convince. So you can get, like if you break it down into that, like for me, I've just been like, if I could message this person on LinkedIn and get to that stage where I can have a conversation with them, I could get any opportunity in the world, which is a pretty cool thing to think. Like, because before, apart from maybe government's a bit all over the place, but like regular business, I think it's just people at the end of the day. Those are the decision makers.
But for you, what would be some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome on your journey to get where you are now?
I think this is quite a classic one, but like the work-life balance piece is like it's quite difficult to switch off. Like it's affected like my relationships with people. It's affected like health. It's affected both physical and mental health. It's being able to, I think when you can work insanely hard and you have these really high ambitions, it is like, in my opinion, it's like a bit of a mental disease. Like you're not built right, because you don't get happiness if you're like insanely driven. You don't get happiness from the immediate. Like you don't really get happiness because it's always like building for the next stage. And everyone talks about delayed gratification being like the best, but if that delayed gratification is always delayed, you're never going to get it. So I think the biggest challenge is like actually being present, for me anyway, like being present, enjoying the moment, enjoying the people that I'm with, and not thinking about, oh, I should be working on this. It's really ruined a lot of, like, it's really hurt, I guess, like elements of relationships, health, mental health. Like, so I've learned to balance that now, and it's a long journey. Like I still have moments where I don't really do that. So there's no real fix to it. You just have to like like, yeah, just be present in the moment. That's my biggest advice to both myself and anyone listening, is like enjoy the present and enjoy like the people around you. Because these businesses, like, they're more for yourself. Like, they're more for just fun, I think. Like, I don't know. That's the way that I see it.
No, absolutely. I think that's quite an important thing. And I mean, you sort of almost mentioned it at the beginning, some people work over the weekend, but, some people, it's good to actually take that step away and really like live in that moment, enjoy your weekend, really. Enjoy the time you have.
And also, like, just not like, I think, yeah, comparing yourself to other people was something that I did quite a lot of, and it was quite difficult in my position where I would have a really inspiring entrepreneur on the podcast like every week. So it was very easy for me because I was like interacting with them like every week to compare. And that's also very bad because it's just very detrimental. And also you're comparing yourself to someone that, like, you don't see the downsides. So I'm trying to be very honest with you guys. It's like the positives and negatives, because I realize that if people see kind of just my LinkedIn, they might, I don't know if it's like crazy.
That's the thing. It's always an iceberg, isn't it? You can only see so much of it.
100%.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the work that you have to put in behind the scenes, that's not seen. The end product is seen and is glorified, but the actual effort to get there isn't always noticed. And would you still go into this industry and do it all again if you knew everything you know now?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I would, because I genuinely enjoy it. It's really good fun. It's mentally incredibly challenging, which I quite like. I think the biggest misconception is like it's a very easy way to make money, like within startups, within podcasting, within like the stuff that I do. And it is genuinely like it's not easy to get to this stage. And even then I'm still going, I'm definitely not finished. So like there's easier ways to make money. Like you can work for a bank, you can work in all these like jobs where they pay very high salaries, but that for me was never a gratifying thing. If you work in those jobs and you are happy, then like, well done, you've completed life, like you've won. But for me, like it wouldn't like stimulate me mentally enough to be happy there. So yeah, I would continue to do what I do. There are positives, there are negatives, but yeah, at the end of the day, I do really enjoy it. Like, and if I get to a stage where, and this does happen, where I'm like stressed or like kind of worried or have imposter syndrome, I do take a step back and kind of realize I'm like, yeah, I'm grateful that I've got to this stage, all these opportunities that have come and all this type of thing. And I'm also grateful for like family and health and all this type of thing, because that just helps you feel grounded. Because we're insanely lucky to be in this country in the first place, like a country where all these opportunities exist. So like, yeah, everyone's like very lucky to be here already.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure hearing your story so far, and you've got a couple of really great companies and awesome podcasts. So thank you again for your time. No,
my pleasure. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you. Where can people find you, find what you're up to, the businesses you're involved in?
Yeah, so if you want to find me on LinkedIn, my name is just like Sina Sadrzadeh. You can probably be in the show notes, but yeah, just like LinkedIn is probably the easiest. You can just message me directly or like add me there. If you want to check out the podcast, it's the Millennial Entrepreneur. That's 2 L's, 2 N's. A lot of people have like struggles spelling it. I mean, even myself at the beginning, to be fair. If you want to find my business, it's Wing, W-I-N-G. So you can just put in wingcard.io. That's the URL. And then the NFT marketplace, which will be out hopefully by this time the podcast is live. That's just mynft.com. So yeah, that's like pretty much everywhere.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.